Well,
Sounds good.
Camille, thank you for joining us on Infamous Horrors today. What got you involved in Alive?
Oh, um, so I have a connection with Rob Grant, the director. Him and I attended the Canadian Film Center Actors Conservatory. I was in the Actors Conservatory, and he was in the directing program. And so we met way back in 2013-14 at the center, and we worked together on a very short scene that was set up for the program, and I just adored working with him. So I always kind of hoped that we would get to work on something more substantial in the future. And I was out in Vancouver kind of doing a little soul searching after I'd gone through a breakup, and this script came forward, and they were like, is this something you'd be interested in doing? We go to camera in 3 days, and then we did.
Yeah, when I was watching Alive, I kind of appreciated the old homage to like 20s and 30s monster films instead of necessarily it being a straight up like H.P. Lovecraft reanimator thing. They involved it with like a Bela Lugosi or Boris Karloff undertone with the way they used other people's limbs and stuff like that. So how did you react when you read the script?
When I read it,
Yeah.
My first instinct with it, I think that as a woman in horror films, often you're asked to do a certain type of victim or role, and this one wasn't the same as everything else. It feels like this character had a lot more, had quite a bit of substance, of question. And she wasn't just she wasn't objectified in the same way that I'm going to say you see in some other horror films.
Like she wasn't a damsel in distress kind of thing.
She was, in that they're just escaping, but, she wasn't put in as many situations where, she was naked and running and bleeding or whatever, which those types of roles and characters don't appeal to me in the same way. This one was like, I can get behind this. I can put something to this. I can understand who she is or why she's in this situation, which you have to be able to have compassion and not judgment for the character,
Yeah. And how was it like working with Angus Macfadyen in this? Because he was phenomenal in this. I mean, he just crushed.
Wasn't he? Oh my God. He was just incredible to work with. On the day, we say that when we're shooting, so when we're actually shooting scenes, he was super unpredictable, which is perfect for Tom and my character to get to sit and just work with him, because you never quite knew what was going to come out or what he was going to be like that day, which really kept things on edge in the right way. I just think his performance is off the charts. He was incredible to work with.
And working with him like that, being unpredictable, it must have kept you guys tensions like kind of high when it needed to be on set, and that must have helped elevate a lot during the filming process too.
Absolutely. Yeah. The tensions were high. I'm going to say when we weren't shooting, we got along extremely well. We had a lot of laughs, and that's all three of us. We had a ton of laughs. We really got to almost swing the opposite way of what things were like when we were shooting the scenes, which was really tense and heightened emotions and constant unpredictability from Angus, and you weren't quite sure what he was going to do or what he was going to bring to the table, which was just amazing. We also just speak to that. We got to meet up once a week and kind of look at the script in advance, and because I came on with such short notice, that was really valuable for me to get to do. But we'd sit and we'd look at the next week what we were going to shoot, and Angus always had something he was coming to the table with that he was interested in exploring or adding, or what if my character had he wanted to have, I think that he wanted to have the Scottish hat that he wears in that one scene when he's pruning. Yeah. And all those little parts were so beneficial in the end result. He really brought all sorts of little special, subtle parts of this doctor that made it so creepy.
And you kind of answered my previous question, but so
sorry, can you say that again?
Yeah, you kind of answered my question that I was about to ask with, like, how light was it on set when you guys were all together and not filming? So kind of
more if you want. We got stories.
Yeah, so if you want to tell some stories about how it was on set, like when you flipped that switch off when you guys weren't in character, just how was it being together on set?
Well, where we were staying, there was a Joey's restaurant, so there was a lot of eating Joey's for meals, I'm going to say. So, and I enjoyed that restaurant. The food was very good, but you're eating it for a month, you're like, I'd be interested in something else. But, you know, a little variety never hurts.
Yeah.
So there's that part. And otherwise, I think it was just really necessary for us to laugh. Tom used to scare the crap out of me every time we'd be in between scenes. I was on edge a lot of the film because I'm like waiting to be scared in real life as me, as well as I know I'm going to be like scared in character when we're shooting. So that was a lot of fun, and it probably provided the best sleeps of my entire life at night because it was just such an exhausting process. Tom's really good at scaring people.
Yeah, I was going to say, so he was the best at pranks on set. It must have been Tom, right?
Yeah, Tom was a pranker for sure. Yeah, there was one day where he had to have whatever prosthetic work over his mouth to not give anything away, I guess. And that was the day that he didn't do any pranks, and that Angus and I kind of got to give him a bit of a hard time. So we got our redemption there, but that was it, just the one day. Otherwise, it was Tom. Also, Tom and I got to, because we were always there together, I'm going to say, very few scenes where we weren't together. He plays guitar really well, and we would sit and he'd play guitar and I would sing, and I'd make up lyrics and he'd make up different riffs on the guitar, and we'd just make up little songs. We would sit out in the morning at Sheep River where we shot a lot of that outdoor stuff and just sit with the guitar and sing and make stuff up, and it was really, really, really peaceful and wonderful to do that with him as well.
See, stories like that would have been great to have on like the DVD as behind the scenes or like a making of documentary of what went on behind the line. See, stuff like that would have made it fantastic if they did that.
Yeah, I think that it's always nice to see like what's the reality of shooting this, like, and what are people up to, where were their headspaces at, where were they living. I love to see, how do you get the end results for all of that blood, like what was the reality of shooting with all that, how cold it was, how wasn't, like we're running through the forest in our bare feet, so the wardrobe woman, oh my god, bless their hearts, they figured out a way to like moleskin the bottom of our feet and bandage up our feet so that we had a pseudo shoe while we were running through the woods, because there's a lot of needles and like debris and rocks and stuff. So the first day running, we were like, we need some help with my feet are just going to be busted up if we keep going with this. So a lot of that stuff too, which is really, really nice. It's that whole village that makes this film that you want to see, where you're like, oh my God, the guy with the boom that's like hiding behind who knows what, or is standing in the middle of a river because he's trying to get sound and he's out of the shot, and you know, stuff like that. That it's the reality of filmmaking and the magic because of what people are willing to do. Yeah.
Well, Camille, since Alive is a horror film, were you a fan of horror films growing up, or were you just not into that scene at all, really growing up?
So I haven't been exposed to a ton of horror films my whole life. We didn't watch a ton of TV growing up in general. Some movies, but it wasn't a lot of our time. And my mom had an experience. She'd watched Jaws when it came out, and she had held on to those feelings for a long time, well into her adulthood. And she said it still kind of stuck with her and bugged her. And I kind of always took that as I would be akin to her and have a similar experience. So yeah, I tried to steer clear of a lot of horror films. My imagination just gets going too much, and they scare me and stay with me for so long. I watched The Ring, the North Americanized one, and I watched that and I couldn't sleep for 7 days. Like I was so stressed out.
So you were living that movie. You couldn't sleep for 7 days.
Yeah, and really I should have just been able to not sleep on the 7th night, right? But my brain was like, don't fall asleep. This is real. Like it becomes too real for me. So I kind of have to not, if I'm protecting my psychology. It's too real. I'm too scared. I'm too invested. So it was cool to get the opportunity to act in one, and shooting it was pretty scary as well. I'm gonna say for me, there's a lot of real adrenaline and heart beating real quick and sweating and feeling like tired and exhausted and all those feelings that come with your body living in a really intense state.
Yeah.
But for this, Rob was like, you need to watch Misery. And so I watched that as a study, which kind of let me, anyway, so I watched Misery. I really, really, really loved it. I mean, Kathy Bates, oh my God.
She's phenomenal in just about everything she does.
Yeah, she is, totally.
Like,
she's phenomenal.
Even in The Office, when she's in The Office, I mean, she's just hilarious.
Do they have her in The Office?
Yeah, it's later on, but yeah.
Oh, that's funny. Oh my God, she's funny. I'm gonna have to watch that. Yeah. And I watched I really loved Get Out.
Yeah.
Of course, I mean, everybody, that was such an important movie. But I'm able to handle some types like Get Out, Misery. I'm able to handle that, but a lot of the blood really makes me.
Yeah.
So I'm really gagging.
Because I kind of grew up in a similar household where we didn't watch a whole lot of horror movies. We did watch movies, but I didn't get into horror until I was about 15 at Blockbuster growing up.
Blockbuster.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we're the same generation. I know. Yeah. Blockbuster. Yeah.
Because my mom was telling me a story when she watched When a Stranger Calls, and she told me that scared the hell out of her, and that just turned her off horror movies for the rest of her life.
So similar to my mom. That's so funny. Well, and it really sets the tone for what you're exposed to at that point in your life. Sets the tone for what you could stay with forever if you don't decide to go outside of that box.
And
did you watch When a Stranger Calls? Have you seen it?
Yes, I have. I don't know if you heard the Dane Cook skit about scary movies when he talks about Jaws and When a Stranger Calls. And he said when he watched Jaws, he couldn't take a bath for like a week.
Oh my God, yeah. Hey, well, on that as well, I'm going to write that down because I'll look up, I like Dane Cook. I think he's, oh man, I'm going to look him up. Okay, so Dane Cook, comedy on, another little bit of a story. In university, I did a course where I ended up having to read Stephen King's The Shining. And I read it before I saw the movie, so I did end up seeing that film for my course. But reading the book, I had a pretty intensive time in university. I was training in dance. That's what I did my degree in, and so my electives were mostly in English. And I had to read The Shining, and I was reading it, and every night I would read it, and the only time that I had in my day to read this book was right before bed, which
Yeah, that's not a,
yeah, it was
that's not
horrible.
a
I
good
was
idea.
happy to have nightmares and to be put in this state where it was so difficult. So I still, to this day, I go into bathrooms and I open the shower curtain. I have, like, if it's at night and I need to pee, I have to open that shower curtain and just know that there's no woman in the bathtub. And the book itself, like having that in writing, it gets in your head in a different way than the movies. I'm going to say because movies are decided for you, it's that director's vision, they're creating it, they're putting it out there, and then you're taking that in. Like with books, you're reading it and you're creating it all yourself. And so it almost,
And
it
it
just gets
lingers
deeper.
more too. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You've had that experience too?
Yeah, because before the new It movies came out, I read Stephen King's It, and I had about 3 nightmares while reading it. And I was just listening to the audiobook, and it was just insane. Because, like, the movies never gave me nightmares, not even the original 90s version. But reading that book, I had multiple nightmares. Just reading the book more because it lingered and it just stayed with you throughout the night.
Yeah, it really stays with you in a different way. I think because it's your own creation. Because your brain's really like more, I don't know if that's fair to say, but I think it is. Your brain's more invested in it because you're reading it and creating it.
Yeah.
There's no way. I'm not going to be able to read it. There's no way. No chance. Zero chance.
It's a journey too. I mean, the audiobook alone was about 47, just under 48 hours too.
Who narrates that?
Gosh, I would have to look it up.
Oh, just curious if Stephen King would have narrated it himself, because that's also, gosh, that'd be pretty cool to hear him.
Let me see.
His story.
Book details. It is narrated by Stephen Rebert.
Oh, a different Stephen.
And I did listen to the audiobook of Pet Cemetery, and that was narrated by Michael C. Hall. So.
Oh, I also Pet Cemetery. Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah, because when I was listening to that book, I was telling people I was working at a movie kitchen at the time because the theater was like a bar and a kitchen kind of theater, kind of like Alamo Draft House is. And I was talking to my coworkers about it, and I was like, just imagine listening to Pet Cemetery and Dexter, Michael C. Hall is reading it. And they're like, nope.
I'm with them. I'm with them. That's funny.
All right, Camille, thank you so much for joining us on Infamous Horrors today.
Hey, thank you. It was nice to chat with you.
Nice to chat with you too, Camille.
Yeah, right on. Well, have a great rest of your day.
You too. Have a great week.
Yeah. Bye, AJ.
Bye.